pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this day. We just thank you that what things that you've done for us. We ask you tonight to be with us, guide us, and give us the way to conduct our meeting tonight. We just thank you for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to call this evening's meeting to order. I'd like to welcome our guests who are with us this evening, as well as council. We'll start with roll call. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Here.
Elliott.
Here.
Colby.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Newkirk.
Here.
Crabtree.
Here.
Bach.
Here. Next on the agenda is recognition. Mayor, do you have any recognitions this evening?
Yes, sir. We have one recognition tonight. I'll ask Steve Riggle to come to the podium there, the mic. Steve Riggle has worked for the city of Jackson for 24 years and is retiring. So I wanted to bring him and recognize him before council clear back in the 90s. In 99 is when Steve Riggle started here. He started on a garbage truck. He advanced his way up to distribution and collection, and then he wasn't a very good worker, so they made him a boss, which is typically what happens, right?
I guess so.
I'm kidding. They made him a boss because he was a very good, conscientious worker. So he has been the supervisor or superintendent over distribution and collection for a very long time in Jackson. Has always done a wonderful job at that. For the last couple of years, as you all know, we've made a big effort to put our underground utilities in the GIS computer system, and Steve led that. He pretty much started that and has advanced that very well to where a great amount of our utilities are now available to find on a computer. They have iPads out in the field, but they can actually pull it up and to locate where our utilities are when we're digging up the ground and stuff and have issues. And it's huge. It's especially important with Steve retiring because he's like the last old guy that knows where all that is. And so there's not going to be anyone to go to eventually. Eventually all the people that has all that information are gone. And Steve's one of them. But anyway, Steve and I go back a long way, even before he worked for the city. And that's why we dressed alike tonight. Right? But anyway, Steve Riggle, I'm going to give him a chance to say something about your time here at the city. Steve.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the council and administration for having me. I know you guys are busy and every minute takes up away from what you're normally doing. My time here at the city has really been a gratifying experience. I think I'm a better person from being here, the things I've learned. My family and I really appreciate the security that the past administrations and councils has provided for us. It's been an excellent place to be. I couldn't imagine where I would have chosen if I could go back 24 years and start over. I don't know that there's some place that I would choose other than where I am now. So I really appreciate everything that the city's done for me. I've grown to appreciate the residents and our utility customers, because they're the folks that really make this job satisfying, that you know you're out there helping them, doing a good service for them. And I'll toot my own horn a little bit, but also previous years too, the city of Jackson is probably well known for having some of the best services in the city in Ohio that you can find. And I guess that pretty well summarizes what I have to say.
Thank you, Steve. You come up here. Pete wants a picture here. Comes out in front of council there, and I'm going to congratulate you. Go ahead, Joe.
Wilson
I know. I've been.
Wilson keeps sliding.
Congratulations.
Next on the agenda is visitors that we've signed up to speak. First, we'll start with Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin called and asked to have a spot to speak, so he's first. So, Mr. Martin, if you want to step there, you have 5 minutes, and we'll let you go right ahead.
Thank you. Here comes Martin. There must be a tax levy. He's pushing. It seems like every year I ride the circuit, all the townships and all the municipalities, and I believe Jackson's the last stop this year, so that's a good thing. I'm here about the senior citizens tax levy renewal. For those who may not know me, my name is Bill Martin. I'm on the board. This is Jane Leach. She's the president of the board. The organization is the Jackson County Board on Aging, Inc., which is a nonprofit corporation, and we have an arrangement with the county government to provide services for senior citizens. In order to operate those actions, what we do, we need money, and the money comes in the form of tax levies. We also get funding from the state and federal governments, but we have to have our own source of funding. We have 2 operating levies. This is the second of 2. It's not a replacement levy, it's a renewal levy. I'll talk about the difference between the two in just a minute. First, I'd like to go over for a few moments what it is we do. My favorite activity is the home delivered meals activity, and the way that works is we have a commercial kitchen at our facility at 25 Mound Street, the Senior Citizen Center in Jackson. A commercial kitchen, they cook meals, put meals in sealed containers, containers in trays, trays in the vans, and the vans go out into the community, many of them into our rural community, folks that would otherwise have difficulty acquiring a hot meal once a day. So we're able to do that, and we do it by the thousands. It's a good day on our board meeting when we're able to say, well, we have a little extra this year. Maybe we can get a couple of folks off that waiting list and onto the home delivered meals list. I think this year we're able to, now there were some that went off, but I think we're able to get 40 or so on. So that's what we try to do, and I bet many of you have relatives or friends who are able to take advantage of this service. So you know what it is. It sells itself. We don't have to talk too much about it. Transportation, we provide those white vans that says Jackson Senior Citizens on the side. Folks are being transported in those mostly to doctor's appointments, Chillicothe, Columbus, Ashland, where the doctors are. And the seniors will arrange their appointments so that they can get a ride up, have the appointment, and then come back. The transportation also, shopping, necessary shopping, and also for recreation. I'll say a word about kind of a new thing this year on recreation. We all know Wagon Wheeler Square Dance Hall, and those folks were having difficulty keeping that going, so they came to us and said, well, if you'll run it, we'll sell it to you for $1 with the condition that you keep calling it the Wagon Wheeler Square Dance Hall deal. We took that deal in a hurry. We found out that it was a good, solid building, got a lot of years left in it. We just recently made arrangements to have the restrooms upgraded, that sort of thing. So we're going to have some activities in there. We're going to have a Thanksgiving activity, going to have a Christmas party in there. And of course, the square dance folks, part of their deal was they get to square dance whenever they want. So we get them in there. And we also have some events, charge for the events and help defray perhaps the expense of maintenance and utilities. And another thing I might mention, that's our ballroom. So the next time we have a new senior citizen center, and yes, that's still in the back of our minds, even though we stubbed our toe with the voters a couple of years ago, we're going to be able to do a lesser project. We don't have to have a ballroom inside a new building. We've got our ballroom. So we'll have activity center, a congregate eating center, but we'll be able to reduce the scope of our project for what I hope is the next time you hear about senior citizens, for a new facility. We're going to try to, of course, find grants and other sorts of funding. We kind of become more or less learn our lesson on the tax part of that. So this is the renewal levy. I didn't know what a renewal levy was versus a replacement levy until I talked to Tiffany Ridgway. She explained to me renewal levies are same dollars from year to year to year. Replacement levies are like the school district has. As the valuation goes up, the money goes up. With a renewal levy, valuation goes up, money stays the same. So this is a tax you and the taxpayers have been paying for many years. Same number of dollars, you won't have any increase. Here's why we're a little concerned. Everybody here, probably, I would guess, venture, have got the letter in the mail that said your valuation's going up. And I can just imagine that there are people back there saying, this is the way they're going to treat me. They can forget their tax levies. So we hope, request, as I've done on the circuit to all the townships and the other municipalities, please talk to the taxpayers and let them know that this is a renewal, not a replacement. Even if they jack your valuations up, the dollars are still the same for these necessary services. And we hope it's, at the end of all this that we'll get this renewed. Now, Jane's going to say a few words. I don't know if I have any of my 5 minutes left, but I do have a resolution for you folks to consider basically endorsing this tax. Whether or not you do or not is not that big a deal. What is a big deal is that you talk to your constituents and let them know, because they'll be talking to you. They always do. That's why we're here. If I may, then I'll just pass this out to the council members and introduce Jane. Okay.
Leach, yeah, Jane Leach. Go ahead, Jane.
You don't have to worry. Since I'm not an attorney, I won't speak as long.
Very funny.
In Jackson County, the number of population that's 65 and older is almost 18% of your population. Of those that are 60 and older, 19 to 20% live below the poverty line. So if the elderly are living there, that's why you need programs like the Jackson County Board on Aging is providing. The Home Delivered Meals Program, for example. We service currently 3,500 clients we're providing meals to. And as you can see, as the numbers progress, that's significant when you're feeding that many people. The program that we are involved with is Home Delivered Meals. The cost of a meal is $12.63. We are reimbursed through Area Agency on Aging $5.29, which means the agency has to make up the difference of $7.34. That's one of the reasons why we need this operational levy. We have two, and this is purely for operations. Based on those numbers, the cost of feeding a client for 1 year is $3,600. That's feeding them for 1 year, and we provide 255 meals for one client for 1 year. If we have 12 clients, we add 12 clients, the cost to the agency is over $43,000. This year, we added 45 new clients. You can do the numbers and you can see that it adds up pretty quick. And we have to make up the difference. We have two transportation programs. One's Title III program and the other one is an NET transportation program. For the Title III transportation programs, and Bill mentioned the places where we take the seniors to. We can go to Columbus, we can go to Huntington, Charleston, wherever they need for medical appointments. But we run out of money for that transportation program after the first quarter. For the NET program, we're reimbursed $4.88 per mile. And with the cost of gas and so forth, purchasing vehicles, the insurance, the maintenance, the drivers and so forth, we quickly exceed those amounts. The bottom line is, with this operational levy, There is none other nonprofit in the county, nor is there another county agency that can do what this agency is doing. And if we're not here, there's no plan B. There's no second option. So that's why this operational levy is so important. It's important to the population in the county, and it's important to the seniors in your city and your county. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Jane. Council have any comments, questions? Self-explanatory, well done. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Next on our agenda is the approval of our last meeting's minutes from September the 25th. Is there any corrections or objections to the minutes as presented to council? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to Mr. Bach, accept, second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Next, we'll go into committee reports. We will begin with Utility Committee. Mr. Newkirk. Thank you, Mr. Newkirk. Budget and Finance, Ms. Colby.
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Police, Fire, and Traffic, Mr. Foster.
I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Service, Mr. Peters.
No report, other than, some months back, we discussed, the designated outdoor refreshment area, which is called Dora. We've asked Mr. Kirby to figure out what we need to do to get the ball rolling on that. So I just wanted to put this on the radar, not next meeting, but the meeting after. Probably have a service, committee meeting in regards to that, so we can invite the public to kind of work through trying to get that implemented.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Auditor's report, Mr. Reed.
The only thing that I have is audit has been completed, accepted by the state and filed, so if anybody in council, it is online, you have access to it. Anybody can go online and look at what the state auditor said about it.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Kirby, you're a ways away back there in the back, but anything?
I don't have any report, but I would like to go over the Goodyear resolution at the time you present it.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Chief Hinch.
No report.
Thank you, Chief Hinch. Mayor Evans.
Couple updates. One, I want you all to know, as well as the public, we'd like to publicize that we posted an opening with the city today of our IT coordinator. So that job is out on the city's website, and we'll be taking applications for that position. On projects, quick update on some of the projects. Work started last week on what we're calling the Mill Street Phase 3 sewer replacement. That's replacing the old sewer over there that was very problematic. A lot of that's on Athens Street, and it does go up. Part of it's up on Mill Street in that neighborhood. It's a big project, 6,000 lineal feet of sewer line and 25 manholes put in. So it's a big project. We got a high EPA grant for $1.5 million for that. So it is underway now. Also, the big EDA project that we had received a $2.4 million grant, which is financing most of that. It has bid, and tonight, in tonight's business, we have approving contracts for both parts of that. We can talk about that more when we get there. And also, I don't think I've announced this yet. The city has been awarded yet another grant. This is from FEMA, and this is for us to study ways to improve the flooding situation in Jackson. It's a detailed study of our situation, and hopefully they'll come up with, we'll never stop the flooding in Jackson, but we hope to improve it and make some improvements. And so this grant is going to fund that study. Also, we have a flood mitigation program in for our Appalachian Community Grant money that has already been studying the situation. It's my goal to really help improve the flooding situation in the next few years as we can here in Jackson. And hopefully, both of these projects will help that. That's all I have tonight.
Questions for the mayor? Mr. Peters?
I would like to say thanks for going for that grant. I know probably when your term first started, I asked you a whole bunch of questions about what you were going to do about flooding, so you're answering all of this now. And I think we discussed the last study was done in like the 60s or something, the 1960s. So appreciate that as a guy who came from the Second Ward. So appreciate it.
Other questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Schwackhammer?
Yes, before our next council meeting, we will have trick or treat here in Jackson. All 4 mayors had went together and have selected Tuesday, October 31st, 5:30 to 7 as trick or treat in all 4 of the communities. A leaf pickup. Leaves are dropping a little earlier than normal this year. Normally it's early November before we start letting people call in. So same practices we've done in the past. Starting next week, residents can call in to the utility office, and the utility office will issue a work order. These work orders, what we will do is take all the work orders and match them up to regions so that we're not going all over the place. So if they don't show up to pick up your leaves right away, understand we're trying to do this in some type of smart function. Anybody that does want to do a leaf pickup, again, call the utility office, ask for a work order, but please do not put your leaves in the gutter. Rake them, bring them to the curb, but do not put them into the gutter, because when rain events happen, they all end up in our storm catch basins, and that's not a good thing. So we ask that you keep them up in the grass strip out of the gutter. Also, budget time. It's that time of year again. It is my intentions to bring the budget for first reading on the next council meeting, which I have down as 11/13. I hope that date is correct.
I believe that is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like then to have the budget committee take a look at, and if they want to schedule a meeting between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 on the readings. I'm not asking for any sooner than that. My goal is by the last reading in December that we pass a budget, so we have time to have those type of budget meetings as needed, and once everybody actually sees it. We have found that it's better off to put our preliminary together and present it, and then let you guys bring questions. That has worked out better the last couple years, so that'll be the intention again. And the last item I have, the tree commission did meet tonight. It is their intentions to replant some of the trees along Morton Street. We will be placing some door hangers and some little wire flag markers on both sides of the street out there. We have identified trees that are appropriate for the area. And so, and the door hanger will give the people opportunity to give us a call if they've got additional questions. But that is what came out of the tree commission. Hopefully, in the next month, next couple of weeks, we'll have the door hangers and the flags up. And in the next month, we'll have the new trees planted.
Thank you, Mr. Schwackhammer. Questions for the service director? Thank you, Mr. Schwackhammer. Next on our agenda, we will go to the ordinances and resolutions portion of our meeting. We'll begin with ordinance on first reading with ordinance 5423, I believe. Ms. Coon?
An ordinance of the legislative authority of the city of Jackson, Ohio, directing the Director of Safety and Service to enter into an agreement with Johnson's Fire Equipment Company for SCBA's equipment, bottles, masks, batteries, and charger for the Jackson Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 5423 as presented to council? Ms. Colby? Second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, the city has bought, I'll call them used life, MSA bottles that have had life on them, but now we're to the point that we need to actually replace bottles. We've gotten a quote, and the reason normally we have bought Scott Air Packs in the past. We were down to the only department in the county that was running Scott Air Packs. Everybody else was running MSA Air Packs. And it makes it very convenient for all departments that if we are running the same air pack or the same bottles across all departments in the county, to be able to interchange or provide to each other as needed. And MSA provides territories, and in our territory, Johnson's is the MSA provider for that. That's why it's so defined to an individual, to a brand, because they are the only option for all MSA for this territory. So that's why we're bringing this to you. The purchase quote that we've got is only good through the end of this month. So I would ask the council to consider passing it on an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Swackhammer. Mr. Peters?
I don't think there's anything that would constitute an emergency other than this, so I'll move we suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules, second. Ms. Colby? Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Yes.
Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Yes.
Ordinance 5423 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, is ordinance 5523, first reading. Ms. Coon?
An ordinance for transfer of fire department funds from buildings and other structures to equipment fund and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 5523 as presented to council? Mr. Newkirk, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Elliott? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, first of all, this is not an increase in the budget. It's just a transfer between line items. We have found that we have some additional funds in the building and other structures that, that we're not going to be using, but we would like to go ahead. Part of that equipment is for the one you just passed, the amounts there. And as you saw, that amount there was, what was it, $81,000. That's the majority of this. And then there's a couple other items that Chief would like to take care of prior to year end. That's why we're asking just for the 100,000.
Other discussion? Mr. Peters?
I'll move to suspend.
Motion to suspend the rules. Second by Ms. Colby. Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Ordinance 5523 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, first reading, ordinance 5623. Ms. Coon?
An ordinance approving additional appropriations in the general fund, transfer out, and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 5623 as presented to council?
Motion
Mr.
to
Elliott, is there a second? Mr. Bob, second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, as this states, this is additional, so this is a budget increase for this amount. You've seen all the work that we've done around town with the curbs and sidewalks and gutters. And normally, we would have used 228 and 234. Here's a situation where we didn't pull out of those funds when we should have. Now we need to put them back in the street and alley fund. So our 228 and 234 is going to have, at the end of the year, funds left in it, but we're going to have to fund this general fund line item. So that's what this is for. So we can continue with the curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and other activities throughout the rest of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Swackhammer. Mr. Reed?
As far as funds, there's normally a transfer from the general fund to street and alley every year. We hadn't done that this year. So as far as administration and all the work that they put in, they've spent a lot of money out of street and alley. But like I say, you can see where it went. So this is necessary actually to meet payroll and other expenses for the end of the year for street and alley. So it is a necessary expenditure for the city.
Mr. Reed, other discussion?
I just have a question. So, I know we voted to transfer the money to street and alley before due to our woes in the general fund, but for next year, are we going to budget differently? We're not transferring $300,000 extra.
Mr. Reed?
In my looking at it, you're going to have some money put into street and alley again in the beginning of the year. But then as things are expensed out, sidewalks, streets, curbs, anything that's street and alley, I've talked to the state on it. They have given their blessing and said that can be direct charged back just like we were doing a contractor. So in other words, if we're doing street, sidewalks, gutters, if we keep track of wages, everything, that can be charged off and be an appropriate expense for the income tax, 234-4228.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Other questions? Ms. Colby?
I move to suspend the rules.
Ms. Colby moves to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk, second. Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Ordinance 5623 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, first reading, ordinance 5723. Ms. Coon?
An ordinance for transfer of general funds, transfer out to the street and alley transfer in fund, and declaring an emergency.
I get a motion to adopt ordinance 5723 as presented to council.
Motion to
Mr.
adopt.
Elliott, is there a second? Mr. Crabtree, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mr. Reed?
This is just the second part of the first, to make it usable for street and alley. Like I say, we have got more money in the general fund now. We've been able to save money. So there is I think the council will be pleasantly surprised with what we've done with the general fund in the last couple of years. But we still doesn't give money to street and alley. So this gets some money to the street and alley for this year completed.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Mr. President, motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Elliott, is there a second? Mr. Crabtree, seconds. Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Ordinance 5723 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration on first reading, Ordinance 5823. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance approving additional appropriations in the Lillian Jones Operating Fund and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 5823 as presented to council? Mr. Elliott, is there a second? Mr. Newkirk? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mr. Reed?
The curator at the Lillian Jones Museum was able to get a grant, and this is for taking that money and appropriating it so she's able to expend it.
Oh.
So this is money that she went after, she was awarded, and was put into her budget.
Other discussion? Mr. Elliott?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Elliott to suspend. Is there a second? Ms. Colby, second. Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby. Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Ordinance 5823 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, first reading, ordinance 5923. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance to repeal and amend ordinance 12-19 to establish a range for an annual salary for the position of chief of police and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 5923 as presented to council? Ms. Colby, is there a second? Mr. Peters, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mayor Evans.
Yes, this is to establish the pay range for the chief of police. You might recall, back in the spring, passed a new contract with the Teamsters Union for the police. Part of that was a pretty nice raise for them to try to meet market conditions and try to, continue to build up our police department. The chief is not part of that. He's not in that union, so this is to bring him up to where we think he should be too.
Mayor?
If I might add also, this also moves the chief under the city's policy and procedures book versus the union contract type activities that the Teamsters had before. And so a lot of the things that were in contracts before that were allowed by the chief of police by, I'll say, just our past actions. It clears all those up, and we're not harming the chief in his salary, but it also, as the mayor said, brings him to a level to be competitive against other organizations as well.
Can I
Mr. Brockhammer?
add one thing, Dan? That
Yes, sir, Mayor.
The new police contract did take effect last month, so we'd like to, if you would consider passing this on first reading to get this in place too.
Ms. Colby?
It said that it would start January 2025.
Well, I think if you read that, it should be, let me find the words.
That's just
It says
when
the-
step increases. would
Yeah,
go
it
in.
says the rate increases will begin in January 1st, 2025.
Okay.
Yes, so that is, we've set the police chief up the same as we have all of our leadership within the city. So we believe that the police chief is operating the same as we would any operations manager within the city. And that's the same type of scale and everything that we've got on. That's why the appendix is in there on the back page, I believe, that shows the beginning, the hierarchy there.
But it's not the 24th. It'll be another year before that.
No, the base will go in as now, and then it states that whatever the sergeant's percentage of increase is, he will get the same on the following January, not starting this year, because the sergeants took a $3 per hour jump. So it will be starting in 2024, when they get their raise in September, whatever that percentage number is, that's what he will see as his percentage of increase come January 1st, 2025. And this is the same format we've used for all of our leadership and non-union members in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Brockhammer. Mr. Peters?
I I want to say, I think it's a good thing, because getting paid hourly now, he might work 250 hours in a month. So this removes, if we did have some sort of catastrophe, that removes that. The only other thing that I have a question about, and you'll probably explain it to me here, is the core hours of work are established as Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and placed on a flex schedule within the city's timekeeping system. Shouldn't he just be on a flexible schedule at all times? Like, how, talk me through what that's for.
Again, as I mentioned, we treated it the same as all of our leadership positions. They all have core hours that if it's a normal day, nothing else going on, we expect them in those hours. Just like our operations managers that could be called out anytime, day or night, the police chief could definitely be called out anytime, day, night, weekend. The flex schedule allows them to have that flexibility then. So we've got options in Kronos on how to set them up. So he will be set on a flex schedule. But during normal circumstances, we would expect to be able to interact with him during those hours.
Do all of your salaried people punch time clock?
Yes, they do.
All of them?
Yes.
One other thing that I did as I was reading through this, some people might think this is so much money compared to other municipalities that neighbor us. Like, I know Chillicothe is much larger, but their chief of police makes $145,000 a year before any benefits. Logan, Ohio, which is very comparable to Jackson, their chief makes more money than this. So I think everybody's happy with, the way and the direction and the management and the leadership and things that are happening in the police department. So I think this is a good idea all the way around, and we should probably try to get this passed through as soon as possible.
Mayor?
He mentioned Chillicothe, and you might recall that that's who we were battling just for police officers too, and that's the reason we made the changes in the police contract. So applies here too. We gotta give him up enough to keep him, because we do think he's doing a great job as our new police chief.
Well, right, yeah, correct. I mean, we've got to be competitive. I know we laughed and joked about the paying too much for people to mow grass and whatnot, but let's be honest, when you pay people, more than they can make out in the public sector, you had a lot of extra people to mow grass at the cemetery this year. So you get what you pay for, and citizens pass this tax. I think this is a good thing. So
We think our police chief's definitely worth it too.
I'll go ahead and move to suspend the rules so we can get this implemented.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Bob. Is there discussion?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Yes.
Discussion. Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Yes.
Ordinance 5923 is duly adopted. Before we move on to the resolutions, the chair would like to recognize the girls' soccer team, who just won 3-0 tonight against Unioto, and will
Who's
be.
their coach?
She's somewhat related to me, yes. But they will play Thursday night for a district, in the district finals there. So have a tough go, but it'll against Marietta probably. So, but congratulations to the girls' soccer team. I think this makes them 14 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties on the season.
Awesome.
But who's a dad counting? Right?
Awesome.
Our first resolution on first reading is Resolution 4523. Ms. Coons?
A resolution authorizing an application to the State Fire Marshal's Office for the Marks Radio Grant and declaring an emergency.
Can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 4523 as presented to council? Mr. Bott, is there a second? Mr. Elliott? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Sweatkammer.
Yes, this is just to allow us to apply for this grant. The deadline for filing is November the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Sweatkammer. Other discussion?
I'll move to suspend the rules to meet the deadline.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mrs. Colby to suspend the rules. Discussion. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bob.
Discussion. Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bob.
Resolution 4523 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration on first reading, is Resolution 4623. Ms. Kuhn?
A resolution of the Legislative Authority of the City of Jackson, Ohio to accept the bid of BP Pipeline LLC in an amount of $1,752,221.40 for the water and wastewater mainline improvements, Contract A, as it was the lowest and best responsive bid submitted, and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 4623 as presented to council? Mr. Newkirk, is there a second? Mr. Elliott? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mayor Evans.
This is the South Street water line, part of that big EDA project that I mentioned earlier.
Other discussion?
I'd like to ask for that be passed on first reading unless there's an objection.
Motion by Mr. Newkirk to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Ms. Colby? Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bob.
Further discussion?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bob.
Resolution 4623 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration on first reading is Resolution 4723. Ms. Kuhn?
A resolution of the Legislative Authority of the City of Jackson, Ohio to accept the bid of In Situ Form Technologies LLC in the amount of $788,875 for the water and wastewater mainline improvements, Contract B, as it was the lowest and best responsive bid submitted, and declaring an emergency.
Could we get a motion to adopt Resolution 4723? First reading. Mr. Elliott, is there a second? Ms. Crabtree? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion. Mayor Evans.
This is Contract B of that EDA project. It was split into two jobs. This is the sewer part of it. It's mostly a sewer lining. There's some repair to that big EDA project.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just
Mr.
like,
Schweikhammer.
I'd just like to share with council, I know these are a couple of very big numbers that are out here. If you'll remember, the EDA was $2.4 million. We had another $250,000 from OVRDC. And so that, as you can see, the majority of it has been covered by those two grants alone. And we still do have a little bit of our ARPA funds left to help cover some of that additional. So although you're looking at some very large numbers in these two, we've been blessed with receiving some big grants to help us out.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer.
Yes. I just have a quick question. What's the timeline on this project start date?
Well, we can't award them until, of course, they get approved here. The water line project, Brass has got a little bit of a lead time right now. I'm guessing neither of these, or at least especially the water line, will not be until the latter part of first quarter of next year. Right now, the tentative date that they had talked to Ms. Plants and I on, they did not think they could get the brass until probably February.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikhammer. Mr. Elliott?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend by Mr. Elliott. Is there a second? Mr. Crabtree, second. Discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster. Elliott. Colby. Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Discussion. Ms. Coon?
Foster. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 4723 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, first reading, Resolution 4823. Ms. Coon?
A resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for and execute all documents for financial assistance under the Disaster Relief Act and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 4823 as presented to council? Mr. Elliott, is there a second? Ms. Colby? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion, Mayor Evans.
This is simply to designate an agent. This is their form that needs passed by council to designate the agent for that FEMA grant that I mentioned earlier to study our flooding. So I'd ask that you suspend and pass that tonight.
Other discussion?
Mr. President. Peter? This all says 2022 at the bottom.
I just changed the original once I got here. I saw that.
The one that would be signed.
The one that we will be signing, yeah, I'll say 23.
Other discussion?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. Elliott, motion to suspend. Second by Mr. Newkirk. Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Further discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters. Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 4823 is duly adopted. Next, for council consideration, Resolution 4923, first reading. Ms. Coon?
A resolution of the legislative authority of the city of Jackson, Ohio to enter into a contract for vision, dental, and life insurance coverage with the Guardian Life Insurance Company administered through People's Insurance, Jackson, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 4923 as presented to council? Ms.
Move
Colby?
to suspend.
Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, Guardian is the entity that has provided us with the subsidy insurances, the Max 401. What is it? Max 105. Thank you, Brett. I saw the head shake. And People's Bank is the local entity that has administered that for us. And our contract with them expires on December 31st of this year. Just trying to get ahead of and have in place a resolution prior to that expiring.
Other discussion? Hearing none, this constitutes first reading of Resolution 4923. Our final resolution for council consideration on first reading this evening is Resolution 5023. This was a late one in, so I want to make sure everyone has a copy. Ms. Coon?
A resolution of the legislative authority of the city of Jackson, Ohio to enter into a settlement agreement with Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 5023 as presented to council? Ms. Colby, is there a second? Mr. Bob? No, I'm sorry, no, Mr. Crabtree. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. We'll start with discussion with the gentleman way in the back, Mr. Kirby. So,
Thank you. So this is the agreement with Goodyear that we've been working on for a number of years. You'll remember we had, I think, 3, maybe 4 tolling agreements that continued it out while they filed suit against other users of the landfill, including a number of companies, and some of them still in business and some of them here and some of them not. But that's not completely settled yet. That's still an ongoing suit. Our tolling agreement expires at the end of this year. At this point, Goodyear was very anxious to get it wrapped up, and we were kind of looking at being part of the lawsuit for getting it resolved. All in all, the resolution that they've always offered has been very attractive. There's just some fine tuning here and there, and some things we could do, and some things we couldn't. But for the most part, they heard what we wanted to change. So the agreement that we have, they're asking us to approve, will remove us from the lawsuit. It will release any claim that we may have towards anybody else, and Goodyear, and any claims they have against us. The mechanics of it is that Goodyear will build, this is going to be is all for Crowville as well, is going to build a facility and maintain a facility and do this at their cost, that they can truck the leachate, the water that they draw from the landfill, to the city wastewater plant. The numbers that we've landed on, originally it was 90% of whatever produced, but they agreed to limit that, and the number we had always been talking about is a gallon a minute each day, basically the amount of a leaky toilet. So we don't have to accept any more than that. We're going to accept 90% of the total waste up to that amount. I think everyone agrees that that's an amount that we can certainly do. It's not going to present any real cost to the city. They will maintain, like I said earlier, they'll maintain all of the costs associated with permitting and building the facility and trucking it there. So the city doesn't have any out-of-pocket costs. If we were looking at a lawsuit, whether we agree with it or not, the two municipalities were the largest users of landfill. Now, most of what we used wasn't all hazardous, but they'll figure a percentage that is, and it was significant, and the amount that we'd be looking at would be significant. You'll remember that you authorized retaining Frost Brown, their law firm out of Cincinnati, as well as other places, that's been involved in the litigation to represent the city if we were brought into the suit. And the numbers we had for just attorney fees were pretty high, certainly in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it through there. So all in all, this is a very attractive agreement, and Goodyear's been, I think, really pretty generous in offering it. I don't know if it's just the difficulty in collecting or whatever it is, but it's not been bad. But we just fine-tune it to make it a little bit better. They would like to have it passed as soon as possible because they are a little behind schedule in when they want to get the tanks constructed. That's kind of their fault, and I understand that they've been, I just got this agreement, it came in late Friday, but they would like to get it wrapped up as soon as possible.
Mr. Swackhammer.
Yeah, a couple things I'd like to add. One, if the quality becomes different than what the sampling that we've been doing, and we're concerned about that knocking us out of compliance, we can refuse. And if their volumes increase, like Mr. Kirby mentioned, we're capped on volumes as well. So knowing that we will continue to test, we will put it into our system at a rate that we so desire. So it's not like they come over and they dump a large amount all the way at once. As Mr. Kirby mentioned, they're going to fill tanks. We will meter it and fill into our system off of those so that we have full control over that and when it's put in and when it's not put in.
Thank you, Mr. Swackhammer.
So the quality of the leachate, so they're getting a permit, again, at their cost, and so all of the leachate has to meet all those permit requirements. So there shouldn't be anything particularly ugly or dangerous that would be accepted because it has to be within the permit boundaries.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Other discussion? Mr. Elliott?
I'm so relieved. I suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules, is there? Thank you. Mr. Peters? Other discussion?
Mr. President, just, from being here, I know some of us were here when we got hit with that, and that was something that we thought might end us, I mean, it could be millions and millions and millions of dollars, so we need to take this.
I'd just add that Mr. Elliott said, I can assure you that former councilman, Dan Call, who's recently passed on, will be happy that this is finally maybe in the past. Because he worried about this all the time. And he come in to see us often about it, especially in 2020. We first started dealing with it, and he's gonna be very happy tonight, I think.
Other discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Yes.
Further discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 5023 is duly adopted. And the chair would like to commend Mr. Kirby on his work with this. Has given us, I think, on a few occasions, no, more than a few, on several occasions, some leadership in this, and certainly the council appreciates his work and what he's done for this too. This concludes our resolutions and ordinances for the evening. I thank you, council, for your work. I don't believe we have any correspondence that we should deal with. This next segment on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business to be brought before council? Hearing none, the only thing that I know of a new business is the scheduling of a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.
That'll be the November 13th at 6:30.
So November 13th at 6:30, we will have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Is there other new business? Mayor?
Yeah, one item. Earlier tonight, the planning commission met and passed a motion to recommend to council to rezone the area of Broadway Street from Broad Street to South Street. And I think the next thing to happen would be this council having a hearing, scheduling a hearing for all residents within 200 feet. Plan that meeting, basically, a hearing for that zoning change from R2 to B2 on that area of Broadway Street. Is
Okay.
that the correct procedure, Joe?
Yes.
Council needs to pass a motion to hold that hearing? I believe so.
I believe so. I'm not sure if the commission can
If
set it themselves, but it doesn't matter if it's set, it won't matter who set it.
if the council is in favor of that recommendation by the planning commission.
Is November the 13th, say at 6 o'clock, is that enough time?
It'll have to be
It has to be
30
30 days
after
on the hearing.
after the clerk can get notice out to the neighbors.
Okay, so that would be the 23rd, so we could go to our second council meeting in November the 27th. At 6:30, if there's a motion to hold that meeting,
I'll move to hold the meeting for
6:30 on the
planning
27th.
commission consideration.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Bob, second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Anything else to be brought before council? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Peters, is there a second? Mr. Newkirk, seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you, council, for your work.